Right, welcome everybody, the Open Space Committee meeting, September 17th. How is that possible?
Easy.
It's still summer, the summer's
Feels
like.
like it is, that's right.
Yeah.
One more day, 2 more days.
Call the meeting to order. We have
Oh, I
David
could
Powell.
end everything here.
Jen Dooling. Are you gonna like knock all the
Well,
cords
it's the
around?
power or something, I don't know, but I will tuck it away, somebody kicked it out. Yeah, it was
I
probably
think I always
Dana,
do.
he sits there.
And Mike and Bill, thank you guys for coming in inside. So on our agenda, and I can put it up. I saw the agenda. No extra citizens here. We may have a citizen calling in, which would be wonderful. Ella Dooling, our former
Yep.
intern, is hopefully
She wants to
Gonna
call
call
in and
in.
join, so.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Walking home from a class right now.
we
so.
won't say no. It's
So she's
awesome.
at UNH?
No, she's
Oh.
up at the University of Toronto.
Oh, right,
Yes,
sorry,
she
wrong
is,
person,
yeah,
yes.
she's
Over the border,
over the border, so.
yes, with her passport.
She's with her passport, she's got a study permit, she can work there for 5 years and become a citizen, and who knows, we may never see her again.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah,
I would say something political, but I won't. Right? Maybe we'll all be there in a couple of years now.
so I may in 5 minutes just try to call her. And
Great.
Sure.
I'll try to not
Yeah,
disrupt things.
that's great. We'll welcome her if you get around.
Okay.
So I think the first thing we put on the agenda was just to talk about the committee a little bit. I feel like there are sort of two categories of things. One is, be great to drum up some more members. We've talked a little about that. In the case when people have busy lives and occasionally miss a meeting, and just making sure we have a quorum of people. So that's just out there. It's like from the in-town hall side of things, it seems as though, like at one point there was sort of discussion of sort of a big push for all committees, and I've seen other towns do that. I think Newburyport just this summer had sort of a big fair where they just like really did a lot of marketing around come volunteer for anything, and then hoping people drum up. But I haven't yet seen that kind of energy in Newbury. So I think we should just take charge if we have ideas. You know, maybe when I don't know, I was sort of thinking like whenever there's something to announce, we could do an actual press release with the paper and sort of include in that, and look at all the great things we're doing, and if you're interested, and that might get some headlines. So membership, one thing, and then the other thing being whether the group who is currently involved is interested in electing officers. Most committees do that on a fiscal year cycle, so we're into fiscal year 25, but that can also happen however and whenever if people are interested. So I would think the normal sort of group of officers would be, if anyone's interested in being chair, that would be responsibilities being to do what I'm doing right now, which is run the meeting, go through the agenda, work with staff to set the agenda for the monthly meetings. I think we'd still be posting the meeting and, whatever, just helping administer things in general. But mostly just kind of help set the agenda and then help coordinate meeting discussions. That would be the chair's responsibilities. Vice chair, to do that in the case that the chair is absent, or to support the chair. And then the other position I would think would probably be appropriate would be clerk, to help with minutes taking. And I would just kind of open that up. David, you've been on the committee in the past, is that the group of officers?
Yeah, what I would suggest, frankly, at this point, is that we focus our efforts and energies on getting more members, and I have a couple of suggestions about that, not in terms of bodies, but in terms of perhaps ways of doing it. The other thing I think I would suggest at this point is, because I think there was such a small number of us, that what we should do or think about doing is having a chair pro tem, meaning that's temporary, okay? Somebody who simply is doing it until such time as we have a committee on which it makes some sense to pull somebody as a chair, because at this point I think it's kind of, short numbers, as it were, unless you folks feel otherwise. That's what I would suggest. It's a way of going forward, and that means that rather than you running the meeting, and also having consultation with somebody about what the agenda's about, then that way we can simply go forward and not feel that we don't have someone who at least answers to being temporary chair. My sense about recruiting people is, and I probably know less about this than any of the rest of you, but we need to look, it seems to me, into organizations where you would logically find people who might be interested, perhaps out of a sense of contribution to the town and their own interest, to get involved in this, making it clear that it can be a sort of short-term thing. It doesn't have to mean you sign up, to be a member of the Open Space Committee for the rest of your life.
Right.
That it could be sort of task-focused, which is getting together the plan and maybe some other things. But I don't know. I don't know what the rest of you folks feel, but I just feel that a kind of lack of some other people who perhaps have other kinds, because I know I'm looking across the table at Mike, and our paths crossed on this very committee a long time ago, and yet also our paths crossed through our interest and his employment and my involvement with he and I, my guess is 2 nights from now we'll be in the same place when his boss is retiring, blah, 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 blah. But
Sweet.
Yeah, right. So, and I don't know, what kind of, for example, I know through kind of weird things, Jim,
I'm really curious.
I see.
No, I understand.
Jim bought a house, from people who my wife and I knew rather well,
Yep.
A rather particular house, as it happened, because it came in
Great.
pieces from
Yeah, that's right.
Denmark, right? And so I got to know him through that connection, and then it seems to me that you and your wife have had connections into the community in different ways because you were parents,
Yep.
which I wasn't. I'm too old to be a parent at that point. And you and Christina turned up as a matter of interest, so I would think there's different kinds of inputs.
Yeah.
The unfortunate thing is that the one organization that in some ways, I don't think I can represent Greenbelt, only can say that I'm very much involved in it and volunteer for them, but it's the trustees, and the trustees used to have, many moons ago, a committee in town. unfortunately, for lots of reasons, which I won't go into, that committee not only died, but essentially was killed because the trustees got rid of committees like that, local ones. But that committee did manage to pull in people who had either, frankly, property interests or outdoors interests, that kind of thing. And I would think, I was hoping that maybe the rec committee might have, and that might still be true,
Yeah.
actually, thrown up somebody. But by our recent experience, yours and mine, in terms of the email arriving a couple of days ago from the committee, obviously they're not hot to trot. Either that or they didn't meet all summer. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well,
you
I
know.
think it's just open. I think, talking with folks anyone knows who might be interested. I mean, there are a few people I know who from time to time have thought about the open space committee back when I was volunteering and Martha was soliciting me to join the open space committee. So that's fine. Just kind of informally reaching out to different kinds of groups, as you're saying. That sounds really smart to me. And then if we want to just get some press going, then it seems like, why not, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think the Daily News would run something if we have something to say.
My sense, my sense is that people these days don't want to do it. People don't respond.
Hey!
Okay, I know, this is interrupting the conversation, there's Ellen. So
Oh,
I'll just leave it here. Ellie,
Yes,
we're in the
oh.
middle of a discussion
Uh-huh.
on the agenda, so we'll just, you can say hello and then we'll continue.
can she actually hear us walking down the street in Toronto? Wave if you can. No,
Can
she
you
can't.
hear us?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh.
We'll just- Well, there we go.
So sunny there.
Yes, the marvels of technology.
So west in the eastern
Yeah.
time zone.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Hundreds of
Yeah.
miles, yeah.
So I think that you're right, that it's hard to get people to commit because everybody's got busy lives. But I feel like a lot of people don't know about open space either, and the benefits to the town. So I'm hoping we can stimulate, well, so there's that, and there's people that see a lot of change going on around here now. At least since I've been here, it's been almost 10 years, which is surprising. So hopefully we can generate some interest. But my question to maybe you and Mike is like, when you've done this in the past, what's like an optimal size group? Because when I've talked to other people in open space, I tell them that like, it's only like 5 of us, and they're like, oh, that's good, it's a small group. But then some people are like, so I don't know, I mean, what do you guys think? I mean, what would be a good number for you?
I mean, when we did the plan, there was a bunch of us. I mean, there had to have been at least 8 of us on
Yeah.
that committee in
Right, and,
07, 08, 09.
right, and
Right.
we were sort of tag team to some degree in that some people were, all, reliably there and some people
Right.
weren't.
Right. And we had planning board representation, we had Concom representation,
Right,
we had the ag community and Matt represented
right,
at that time, you know?
yeah. And then we had the double play with Marlene, and if it wasn't Marlene, then Norm came,
Yeah.
and they came together. This
Yeah.
was,
Was Dan on the rec
remarkable
committee at
couple.
the time?
Right,
Maybe 2? Dan, was he on the rec committee back then?
yeah, he
So we
he
had-
was, oh, yes.
I had a nice little smattering of
I would say.
both volunteers and
you're
people on
right.
other boards in town,
Six-
commissions and boards.
We probably had 10 technical members and 8 who pretty regularly turned up, but we never probably had more than 6 or 7 around the table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why I brought it up is because we ran into and please don't feel it was you or Christina or whoever, but we couldn't meet because we didn't have a quorum.
Okay.
And obviously that means if somebody's traveling or somebody's not well or something's happened, and I guess the one thing I feel fairly strongly is it's important we don't drop a meeting to me personally, because I find the momentum kind of is difficult to kind of keep going in a sense, because it so happens that a bunch of things have happened in my life in the last 2 months, and so I realized 2 days ago I better sit down and pay attention and figure out what we were going to be talking about and take a look at Mike's map and
Right.
and get the, stuff, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And one of the things that helps, I think, is that if you can't make a meeting, then you can call somebody perhaps who's going and say, hey, by the way, we did go through this weird period, and I don't mean us, but I mean sort of the state or something, where you couldn't talk to people on a committee unless you were at a committee meeting. And that's bullshit, frankly. You can, as long as you don't have a meeting to make decisions, or you don't bring things which are decisions to the meeting, you can talk about what you want to.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes is used a bit of a bully pulpit by people who would like to cut things off. Yeah.
Well, the first open space committee I worked with had 7.
Yeah.
And like, there were a couple alternates or something. I mean, there was sort of a little charter, and I don't think that's something that's ever been done here. I reached out to a couple towns to get that information, so if someone's really interested in that kind of, making a charter or setting up some bylaw, like, that's certainly a task that we could look at doing. I think 7 tends to be good because it's not too big, it's not too small, if a couple of people aren't there, you still have a good number,
Right.
it's just
So
kind
with that rate, we're
reasonable.
absent, missing 2.
we got it.
Yeah.
A few,
I'm
yeah.
wondering also, frankly, whether we shouldn't make a little bit of a push, maybe, perhaps not now, perhaps later, but I think, do need to have someone on the select board who at least knows what sort of world it's like. Because Jeff was a kind of unofficial member of the Open Space Committee, because at that point he was a member of the planning board, and the planning board and the Open Space Committee were talking to one another through me and other people. And so I sense that, for example, that Bill, what's his last name?
Demand.
Might be interested in at least coming and finding out what we're about. And I think an invitation to him maybe specifically sometime to come and just be a guest who sits and listens. Would be a good idea, because I don't think the rest of them, even Jeff, have any idea what it is an Open Space Committee really does.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a great idea to invite select board members and make that connection and have sort of liaison, whether it's mostly informal, not necessarily formal, but,
I was just gonna say, I mean, I'm a perfect example of somebody who's interested, pressed for time,
Yeah,
haven't yet even officially done that simple
got it,
step
right.
of becoming a member, so I'm
yeah,
not yet officially a member.
yeah.
I understand that will happen. Calendar 2024,
No.
just kidding.
Yeah.
But I would say, I mean, size-wise, it seems like for now, it's a decent-sized working body. If we need more folks for the actual plan and kind
Yeah.
of divide and conquer
Yeah.
of the actual
just different.
brass tacks work,
Right.
that's one thing. But from an ongoing basis, since there's more than just the plan, right? And
Yeah,
what are we doing on
What else
a
do we
longer
wanna
term
do?
basis, right? That,
yeah,
getting people involved would be great. I think for the way now it's sprinkled in, it's on the website, interested,
Yeah.
And have some newslet, the news announcements on things.
Yeah,
I think that organically or grassroots wise,
yeah,
if we all
Get
just sort of
going.
keep aware of it and try to recruit and publicize,
yep,
maybe it is a little bit strategic about who might do it, that,
yeah,
who you can pull in,
right.
right,
Yeah.
recruit in a more
I mean,
concerted
if
way.
we all try to think of 3 people, like,
Right.
maybe we'll get 2 or 3 people, right? So,
Right.
like,
Right.
it's just sort
Well,
of,
I'm wondering specifically, for example, it's noticeable to me that what is it called? Anyway, the committee that's dealing with the Lower Green, which is one of our open spaces,
yeah,
has 2 representatives from Historic New England, right? One of whom I think actually works at Spencer Pierce Little. The other of whom maybe lives in town and also happens to work, I don't know this for a fact, but just looking at a couple of their meetings. What I'm thinking is they would be, somebody from that committee would be, and if they were also an SBNEA, as it used to be, Historic New England employee working here, got a whole lot of things in one go, okay?
right,
You've got, because their open space is a very key one, because it bridges both the historic commission, open space, it's one of the frankly prestigious nonprofits in town,
right.
So, I'm willing to have a go at reaching out to them and finding out what's happening.
Yep.
And if you build your list of organizations.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
another obvious source.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Do you wanna bring that up now?
Sure,
Okay.
yeah. I think there was a part of an action item from the last trip, and, so Christina and I talked about it, she typed it up, and just made a table, essentially, of, other organizations, and groups that we could potentially approach and reach out to discuss open space and how it's important and applies to them. So we can then, incorporate that into the plan.
Yeah.
And so we have some standardized questions which we're starting, that they by no means set in stone, and everything's open to input. This is just really to get the ball rolling. But we put down a bunch of organizations, and then what we would suggest and propose is that we kind of just divide and conquer. And once we formalize a list of questions, so we can approach these people and then kind of get some data feedback and then get a feel from these organizations, and then we can reconvene. And we'll have that, and I'm thinking after we have like interaction with these organizations, we'll just quickly type up a couple bullets about and how they answered each standardized question, and then we'll have that for use when we write the plan, whether it's us or Merrimack Valley, however that works out. So we'll have this table that we can draw from down the road.
Mm-hmm.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's probably some stuff missing there. This is just a brainstorm through all of our conversations.
Making noises,
Yeah.
excuse me.
How the bottom one's on there, yep.
Yeah, I don't know.
So before we lose track of officers, I just want to kind of open the floor. Is anyone interested in raising their hand or in making a motion to nominate anyone to be any officers? How do we feel about that tonight?
Yeah.
Deathly silence, which is very usual. Okay,
I'm not sure
I
I
would-
can recommend anyone because I'm not a member.
I would
Otherwise
volunteer to be chairman pro tem just to get us going. But I hasten to add, I'm not doing that because I have an agenda. But just to sort of get it done so that, okay, and and
We could have co-chairs too.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's a-
go ahead.
No, I like the idea of co-chair. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not a member to necessarily influence that.
We're gonna hook
Yeah.
you guys all in.
I know,
all three
right?
of you today.
I mean, I think I told you, Kristen, that I'm happy to be the clerk and to take care of minutes and things like that. And I would have to double back and ask about the possibility of even being a co-chair. I just don't know. I have
Yeah,
conflict of interest signed with the town. I have a conflict of interest signed with Greenbelt. We work in town a lot. And I don't know if that's a good idea as the chair to maybe have to recuse from things
Yeah.
should projects be happening. So I feel like I'm in a little bit of the middle there with something like that.
well, you're doing a
Yeah.
great job with the minutes, so
Yeah, I'm happy to keep doing that.
I would,
No problem at all, willing to be the clerk.
someone wanna make that motion while we got him?
Before I
You
backtrack.
wanna make a motion?
Yeah, I moved
I'm gonna record
Mike.
it.
Carboni as clerk.
And I'll second that.
All in favor?
Alright.
Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome.
That's awesome.
And you wanna do a co-chair? I know Christina would love to do it, but she's also very busy. And what you get is like, we'll basically get both of us at the same time, so all of us are really gonna be co-chairing it, I
Right.
would say. But I'd be happy to co-chair.
Yeah, does anyone wanna make a motion?
So
Sharon?
I make a motion that David, Bill, and Christina, which is,
No, cause
Not
I
we're
think it just
scheduled.
needs
Okay.
to be two, yeah.
so I make a
Because
motion
then
that
it's a quorum.
David Powell and Bill Hoffman are co-chairs of the Open Space Committee.
Great. Sorry, anyone second? You could second yourself, I think, can you?
So, yeah, so you guys can say.
I guess I
Oh, we-
guess I'll second for Dave, and
Right.
second for me.
We second for each other.
Okay.
Right.
So is that a temporary
Right.
co-chair?
Hey.
person?
Jim, you have to get to be a proper member, okay?
That's right.
I will get there. I will
Right.
get there.
Because otherwise
Yeah.
you don't count, you're a cipher.
I understand.
I'm not bullying you.
No,
but-
I get it. Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
so, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Terrific.
Out of curiosity, is so with the chair slash co-chair, for now, it can be, is there a term, a length of?
Well, I think good
Because it's a
question.
committee, yeah.
How about fiscal year?
Right.
Get us sort of on track, and then in June, we
Right.
talk about the next
Yeah,
year.
because
Because I
we're already.
We're already
Yeah,
kinda-
galloping
that's
along,
already pro
yes,
tem, I
yeah.
would
I just
argue.
suggested the pro tem thing because that's the way that, other things I've done in the past have gotten by an awkward moment,
Yeah,
yeah.
8 months.
But that's good because that gives us access to Christina even though she's not on the ballot, right?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Right.
and she's
Yes.
essential, so. I
Yes.
agree.
Right.
great, thank you. All right.
Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations.
Maybe commiserate.
It's newsworthy, now we got
Right.
something to.
Yeah, well,
put on
that's,
the-
okay, if you wanna do that.
We're all the
game.
chairs, really,
Yeah, I agree.
Right.
So
Okay.
back to this, I don't, Phil and everybody, do we wanna kinda fill this in a little bit? Does anyone feel strongly about adding their name to some of these good categories?
Is Parker River still like active? I mean, I know that they are here and there, but are they still like,
Well, shouldn't it, I'm gonna say, it's all gotten really folded into, what's it called now, the three, the newsletter is.
Pie Rivers?
Hmm?
There's Pie Rivers.
Yeah.
Well, Pie River, yeah, I think that's, and, what's his name, this guy who used to head it up has now moved on, right? They have a new.
Jerry was there for a while.
No, I'm thinking of the guy who was the guy from the trustees, who was the director.
So Wayne Castaway
Wayne,
oh,
was
yeah, yeah,
director
yeah.
of IRWA and has retired, and Aaron
Yeah, who's,
Bonnie, is chair, or is
Right.
director.
but he's still involved. Wayne. or is
Yeah, he doesn't,
He works for the state
he
now.
works for the state
He works.
now, he doesn't work for the
Oh,
Watershed
oh,
Association.
he
Yeah,
bailed ship.
yeah,
Okay,
Yeah.
because I mean, I know
Yes.
him well enough to call him up and bend his mind. What's he doing for the state?
He works in the shellfish department. He works with me, actually works for Division of Marine Fisheries, and he's
Oh.
the head of shellfish for the northeast area.
What does he know about shellfish?
a
A
lot.
lot. That's where he
Oh, okay.
came
It's
from.
very
He was
smart.
shellfish, yeah.
Oh, good,
But he
all right.
likes doing that
Nice
work.
to know, I should.
Time on the farm.
So I talked to him a little bit about Parker River Clean Water Association, and he said that they need new blood. There's like basically two
Yeah.
people left.
Yeah.
But knowledgeable, and I mean, he says it's a great organization too. He really like the people that are involved, so at least be worth reaching out to them.
I mean, they were really strong for a while, you
Yeah.
know, so that's why I was curious, like
Yeah,
what,
George, whoever.
yeah, George, a guy from Georgetown, George,
Mm-hmm,
Who is
Yep.
she?
from Georgetown,
yes,
right, yeah, he was, you know,
and Yvonne,
yeah,
Marlene was part of that crew,
right,
and that guy
exactly.
Jerry, that was kind of their head for a little while.
Yeah, and then the professor from, oh, you know, from.
The fish, yeah.
The long, tall drink of water, who's the professor, who's,
Yeah, I know who you mean.
you know who I
Can't
mean?
think of him.
Yeah.
Not the guy who did the fish.
Anyway, but I think,
That's somebody else, or am I mixing that up? Yeah.
is there anybody here who's a fish counter, in the local community? Because someone like that might be,
So a volunteer that works.
yeah, because I was thinking there is, I would hesitate to approach her at this, because I actually think she's in Newburyport, but there are a number of people on the Osprey group that I'm part of who are very active, and it struck, but most of them unfortunately don't live in Newbury as far as I can see. But that's the sort of group I would look to say, frankly, we need your commitment to that sort of thing, and not specifically Osprey, but your sort of commitment to the world that represents.
So when I would talk to people, my colleagues at Division of Marine Fisheries, I'd be talking to the Diogenes group who would cover that, and so they would, obviously are really interested in like, well, below dam, but all the up dam stuff, impacts too, and benefits of open space. So we'll get that perspective, I think, from that angle, but if you want like a volunteer citizen, then I could probably get a name from them, through them, because they work with them closely. So I could probably come up with some names of people to talk to, and I could talk to them.
Right, yeah.
Sure.
What's, oh dear me, I can't think of her name, but anyway, I'd have to.
Kristen, I mean, if I'm a,
You could
Pencil
stick
then.
me under the trustees of reservations up there.
okay.
I will be, I am. It's, yeah, they've sort of sorted them. Are you in contact with them at all?
Well, yes, but nobody like just locally. Like
Well,
I deal with a lot of the folks in the conservation restriction
Peter, for
program there.
example, Peter Vinciero?
Yeah,
Because what's happened, just to clue you all in, is that got very confused at one point, in that they were working out of some strange kind of world down in Manchester, right? Who were taking care of our property, Old Town Hill, which was cuckoo, I mean, it really was. Well, now Old Town Hill's gotten folded back into Peter's portfolio, Peter Vinciero's portfolio. And I've known Peter longer than I've known you, actually.
there's been a lot of reshuffling, like for their regions and
Yeah.
who's managing what and what falls under. Like, there's a guy Jared that's one of the Northeast managers now that I've been in
He's gone.
contact with.
Yeah, right, the guy who was at Long Hill, he's in the UK, he went back to
Gotcha.
pastures greener, supposedly. He didn't actually, he doesn't know where he went, but anyway.
I'll find out next month.
Yeah, so I'll do that. And it may be that they have somebody,
Yeah,
you know, I just don't know.
I know the coastal team. 'cause I
Right,
worked
yeah.
there recently. Jim, did you want to sign
Well,
up for
see,
somebody?
two comments, if,
Yeah.
you could kind of pencil me in with, you know, that'll force me
Yeah,
to.
sure.
But, and this is all through my wife Sally, being the sort of point person for me to then maybe find people.
Sure.
Well, she worked at Mass Audubon as a field educator, so maybe unless someone feels like they have a strong connection
for it.
there, I can do that. And through the Newbury School PTA,
Yeah.
particularly the elementary school, which actually I think would be great from a family, younger kid perspective, right, the outdoor
Yeah,
blah. So she knows people there, even though we're past that from our own kids.
yeah, she was a,
Do you have
I'm
kids?
just starting.
Yeah, so.
Just starting. Still-
is there still a green team?
I'm on the younger side of
Because
things.
there was like a green team that Sally and I worked on.
Exactly.
Like getting a dishwasher at NES, so it was like
Oh,
a
yeah, yeah.
subcommittee of the PTA.
I mean, he just started preschool at NES last week, so I'm pretty green
Just
today.
I may
Yeah,
ring you, I may
you're
ring you
there,
up
you
to
know.
sort of. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
You know.
But I can, you know, at least start to work.
I
those
know
two.
someone who's involved in the PTA, and,
Right, and I know Sally keeps in touch with them.
yeah,
And they're actually one of the sources that tend to produce people
Right.
who are like to be actively involved in the whole range of things. Because when we tried to do the override years and years ago, it was people from the PTA at various levels who just anteed up, and there they were, you know, with energy and time and sometimes money.
Right.
And I'm happy to look at our, like you mentioned about the Osprey program, you know, and look at our membership to see who is actually in town and part of like a
Yeah.
program like that with us.
Right.
Like I can do
Right.
that, I can have them pull that information for me. Because I often don't know if somebody's in town or
Well,
they're traveling up here to
I'm
be in that program
wondering
from another
whether
town or something, you know?
What's her name, Mary Ellen? The
Yeah.
volunteer coordinator might have anybody who was volunteered from Newbury to
Right.
work on trails or something.
Should be tired.
Yeah, you know, I mean, we can really mine
yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of these
And
places.
some of these people though, might be better for the actual survey, once we roll out. the
Right,
survey.
right,
exactly.
And
Right.
I'm thinking more organizations like someone else's, like what's their position on
Yeah.
open space?
Correct.
That's kind of what
Yeah.
I'm thinking here.
Yeah,
Right, so
Yeah.
it's not just recruiting a
Right.
member or.
Yeah.
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 Right.
so we're kind
well, I think the deeper it's like the bench, if you know what I mean. The
Yeah.
deeper our bench is for people to do, or to ask to do specific things, rather than be on the committee.
Mhm.
It's, because that's a good point.
Yeah.
I'm happy to do the library also, but I know someone who was on the library board, so I could use that
of, yeah,
to start it. But again, someone here may know, be more connected.
I don't even know what library it is.
You know, and
with
maybe
a
also,
pencil.
you know, maybe add a column for, you know, the ag community, you know?
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Yeah,
That's a great
Cat-
idea.
She's not, is she still chair?
I have no idea.
O'Brien?
No idea. But I'm just saying in general, like, you know,
Yeah, no, you're right.
whether it's
Yeah.
committee or community, you know, whichever one you want to put in that column there,
Oh, yeah,
that
yeah.
row there, you know,
Yes, good point.
because they might not be a part of the committee or something, but there's plenty of active ag folk in town, so just, you know, thinking about the 61 conversations and things like that, you know?
Yeah. I don't think there's a super active actual agriculture
Gotcha.
commission in Newbury right now,
Yeah.
but I heard that it might be getting going again, so I'm not sure.
So
So,
on
but
that
yeah,
one
there's
then-
certainly an active farming
I mean,
community.
are you thinking like Penacrop or like thinking Colby or like, I mean, like
I mean, yeah, you know, like, you know, that's, you know, those are the first folks, obviously the larger farms that come to mind, but I know there's also just been, smaller individuals that have, been leasing like an acre from maybe one of those farmers or something like that too, that are in town that, kind of the future ag community too. So, because I know, somebody like Matt, somebody like Colby's, they're jamming year round and may not have the time or desire to put into the committee, but would be good for the survey as well too, though.
Well, that's kind of
Right.
what I'm thinking, just with this.
Yeah.
is just asking questions, but that's a really important perspective to capture. I
Yeah.
think. So that's a great idea.
Because we know, not all of the farms are created equally. Some have more capital than others, so their concerns are probably different between farms,
And the Parker River Clean Water Association, so we have Ipswich Open Space Committee on here, but that's because Christine and I are good friends with Wayne Castingway, so, and all his brothers actually. And he and I already had a conversation about them, so I can I'm just kind of curious to see where that stands anyways. So I could reach out.
Good. Okay.
And then at the bottom, if you scroll down,
Yep.
I believe, and we don't have to do these now, but these are just a status of potential questions. And we can just, this is to get us started, and if you guys want to add to that maybe, or we can go through and after you guys come up with some more questions, we can fine tune it. But this is kind of where we're headed with it.
Can I just say for the only thing I see missing is like some context for like what we're asking, because we're asking like, how do you think, what are like Bluebird's priorities for this plan? But I think there needs to be a bit of an explanation for even how the plan could affect people now. Just because like, I don't know how much people really will know about the open space plan before coming into the survey. Like it's just important, like we want people to fill it out, maybe do some motivation, like say this could affect you and we're trying to decide like how it will and we could have a say in that.
It's,
That's a great point.
yeah, and then, what's the elevator pitch or story? Yeah. But
Right.
this is like almost networking just to start to gather more organizational
Yeah.
input, right?
Yeah,
And then there's gonna be a citizens type survey.
that will,
Is another, which we can obviously talk about.
right, exactly, so we'll have that survey, so this is like the higher level kind of thing.
Yeah,
In my mind, I mean, I'm a scientist, right, so I come up with a study design, I collect the data, then we do the analysis, and then we write it up, and so this is the data collection
yeah,
part for me.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so just, we could start this now. Yes, that's what we're talking about, is
100%.
as we're, yeah.
Yeah,
In conversations with people, we generally already have some kind of knowledge of, like, just, but there would be a preamble, as Ella's saying, I agree with that, like, you have to put it in context, but then, like, get some real answers in a more quantitative way, and then incorporate it into, as we develop.
yeah,
That's
I
right.
mean, so yeah, step back then, this is what we talked about in the last meeting, when we were like, what can we do now before we find out about the
Yeah.
grant? This is kind of what I think we were talking about doing, so
Yeah.
we're just trying to push it,
Yeah,
keep the momentum going.
I mean, I think these are good.
Well, I wonder how, okay, try to role play an organization. How would I answer 3 when there's no plan?
Well, there is a plan, it's just outdated, but yeah. And some of these questions may
How about
not
could?
apply.
Good.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah, no, I'm just, right. Right,
I mean, I think most of these organizations, not all of them, like maybe not the library, for instance, or,
Right.
the PTA, but
Yeah.
like all the rest of them, they do a lot of their own planning. So it's not, it's not like, it's not another language to them to think about, you know, Irwood does a strategic plan every 5 years, so they're gonna understand that the town is working on this,
No,
and
but
just in a general way.
wait. The town Newbury's open space plan, okay, it has no teeth. Doesn't do anything. Realistically, come on guys, I don't wanna go this place again, but
Well,
the open
everything,
space plan really has no teeth.
The teeth are in the action items, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
The goals and the,
I mean, I can tell you, because the open space plan of whenever, 2010, what has it done?
But isn't that part, it gives something for planners and other members of the community to fall back on, say, look, this is what, this is.
Well,
what
no,
the
I
citizens want.
agree, but what I'm saying is that, okay. I'm not trying to argue with the idea of this question, but what I'm trying to look at is the realities, okay, of the fact that, one, going back, the open space plan has not either enabled or prevented really anything I can think of. And if I'm wrong, correct me.
well, we just don't have that knowledge today, we haven't done that exercise, so.
No, but come on.
That's,
It should be, your answer is just the example. What do you mean? If you were in a community where the open space plan was an active agency, you'd know about it.
well, I mean, I'm happy to argue that with you, but I don't have that in front of me at
No,
this
but what I'm
particular
saying
moment.
is, what I'm saying is the very fact that you need to have it in front of you, okay, and the rest of us, okay, certainly Mike and I
I
have
think
lived here long
David,
enough.
I think very easily we could identify the properties that have been protected since the plan was adopted in 2007.
But
Like,
they
we could
weren't
make that
protect-
list.
I'm sorry.
It's an identified action in the plan to have the town protect
Yes,
land
but
with its
no, but
partners.
you're missing the point
What's
that
your
I'm trying to
point?
make. I'm trying to make the point that as a community,
Yep.
we have chosen, or not chosen because we're asleep, whatever, over time, never, ever that I can think of in the, whatever it is, 30-something, 40 years I've lived here, to get behind and push for the recommendations and aspects of all kinds of plans. What has happened is where it has been a good idea to pick up something that's in the plan and to say, well, so we're approved, we'll do that. We've done it, but not because of an initiative. None of those plans, not even the master plan, has been an engine of change.
So let's focus on this. I'm not making the connection between what Bill and Christine have gathered here and our efforts to reach out to organizations.
Okay, but so what I'm saying is, we have to be aware of the need to change the open space plan into something that is an active agent.
well, I think we briefly talked about this before in the sense that hopefully it's a living document. Yes, the previous iteration kind of sat and gathered dust at some point in time, right? In terms of I call them the action items, I forget exactly what the recommendations and the work that had to be, right, the table there, or tables.
Yeah.
So this is an opportunity both with the plan to make it a little more living and a guide that is an action plan, so that it's not stale, it's just sitting and nobody knows about it. And I think the plan kind of is a first it's necessary for all the funding,
Right.
grants and blah, 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 but it's also
Right.
an opportunity to be a first item that this committee does, and that the committee itself then becomes a change agent, and a little bit of a catalyst or
Right.
something. I'm gonna talk in generalities, but wouldn't that be great if this committee could be something like
Mhm.
that, even though it overlaps with a lot of other organizations or maybe things happening with other committees in town, Conservation Committee, obviously, Rec Committee, but that,
Right.
we're not just sitting here to finish the plan and have it,
Right.
and then be
Right.
done with the committee, right?
Right, we're not done
We're
once
getting
the
into
plan
the
is
broader
done.
purpose of why we're even here, right? So,
That's exactly how I envision it too, and that's why I'm
Right.
so actively involved. Like, I wish there was a way you could put teeth into it.
yeah,
I mean, but that's not how it works, as far as I understand. I am definitely new to this game, but what I also understand is that it does enable us to go for funding. And I look at some of the towns around us, like Ipswich, that have been really successful at securing a lot of money. And as I learn more, there's a lot of potential out there to bring in more money. So how, it'd be nice to see a bigger group, people that had the same vision as we did, or motivation, and then actually to pursue some of that. But the first step is this. So let's just bang this out, knock it out of the park, do the best job we can, and then next year, let's see where it goes from there. That's what I'm
Right.
hoping
yeah,
for.
Great, so you just, so what you just did, thank you very much, is to validate in a way what I was saying. Because previously, people were not talking that way.
Right.
Okay, and it heartens me to hear you both say, hey, we need to get behind this and make it real. Because what has happened in the past is it really hasn't worked out the way. And, I have an example which relates to us, which is the whole Plum Island access issue, where you can see what can happen even when there's money involved. And then we'll get to that perhaps later, but anyway, thank you.
I think, just to, go back in time a little bit, I mean, we didn't have the town support back then, and that's when we hit the wall.
Yeah.
And that's why the committee dissolved and didn't really, push the plan forward. I mean, we did it, but we did not have the support. I still have the letter somewhere saying, thanks but no thanks, essentially, that was sent to all of us.
Right.
And I think times have changed a lot, and I think some of it could be, the unfortunate side of how much we actually have in town compared to neighboring towns. We have every representation in this town, and all of our neighboring towns can't say that, right? So I think, not saying that there's not more work to be done and that we can't, develop that and put it forward, but I feel like maybe there's just more support in general today than there was years ago, and in getting like the financial side of it, I think that was part of it, like there was no money to put towards it. Now if we're eligible to get money in, grant wise on our own, and
yeah.
maybe we'll get the support that way, because it doesn't have to be a line item in the budget that we don't know where to get it from, with everything else we need to do,
Right, right.
Yeah, I love.
So, I mean, it was hard to swallow 15 years ago, and we all worked really hard on it. And to literally like get a letter that was like, thanks but no thanks, was
Yeah.
a little bit of a kick in the teeth.
Yeah.
And I just feel like the people in charge, people running the town, running the different departments, I think we'll get the support that we didn't get years ago. Or I'm naive.
No,
I just feel like the attitudes have changed.
I would hope you're
Not just in
right.
town, but just in general, like,
Yeah.
you just see a lot more support than you did,
Yeah, and I think, just pragmatic level, if the difference or the delta between what the old plan and the new plan, we talked about the resiliency piece, not that we're gonna focus only on climate change and all the environmental stuff, but like, I think that's an example of the times changing, and that might be a catalyst or a way to
absolutely.
get interest from others. Yes, there again are multiple organizations.
Yeah, we weren't talking about any of that back then either,
Exactly.
you know, like,
Yeah.
so just, yeah, you're right.
And,
just
and I
that
think
alone.
COVID, getting people outdoors, you know, is another.
Yeah.
People, I go down to properties, I mean, I do, not that I necessarily see the same faces over and over, but I feel like there's a little more walking around, walking at the Parker River, whatever, it just seems like, I don't have the data, but
Yeah.
qualitatively, it seems like, yeah, there's
Absolutely.
more going on out there around this, that's,
So, I mean, so you guys know we live on the Parker River.
Yeah.
The amount of boat traffic,
Oh, yeah,
and we
it's
can, I
insane.
mean, the boat ramp, I can see the boat ramp, that is unbelievable. Yes,
Yeah.
People, I mean, and ever since COVID, and it
Right.
was busy before, but it is really
I
moving
agree.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's-
COVID
it's a step up
really did.
now.
Right,
Yeah.
That's it.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, that's,
Everything from skiffs to kayaks to sailboats to big boats to, yeah, you name it.
yeah.
Yeah. Yes, it is cool.
Right,
That
but
does
new
bring-
challenges related with that as well.
I mean, out of curiosity, just, and I don't want to sidetrack things, but if we're talking about this list, are we also, we talking about only nonprofit and governmental, or are we also, are there commercial entities that, I know that's a.
Town businesses like marinas, something like that.
I'm thinking of the canoe, you know, the
Yeah.
White Rose.
Oh, yeah. White
you know,
Rose.
You know, that's water, not necessarily open space, but there could,
Yeah.
like they're posting, it's the little I follow,
Mhm.
just it seems like their outreach and their work events and kind of trying to get people, you know, their goal is to get them on the water, but there could be tie-ins there. It made me think about whether are there commercial entities that,
Yeah.
maybe not initially, but let's not forget it in the long run.
Yes, I mean, that's a good point. That
Yeah.
does concern me because I'm seeing the Great Marsh and I'm seeing it deteriorate.
Right.
And, you know, I don't know how far away we get from, if that is from the open space, but in my
Right.
mind, it is related.
Yeah,
And if maybe that will be captured under, when we talk to people at the refuge or something
Right,
like
right,
that, you know?
right.
And actually trustees is doing that joint project restoring Old Town with Fish and
Right.
Wildlife, I believe, so maybe we'll capture that.
Yeah, that's a little weird. What was it? Okay, I hate to even say the word, but the Pink House has, you know, pulled together a really sort of strange group of people in a way. If they're listening, I'm sorry, but, you know, in the sense that it's people who both live here, don't live here, have strange ideas about what we all have as imagery and so on, but they're the sort of, and I'm just thinking, what about, what's it called? Oh, no, wait a minute. What's the organization?
Marowak.
Hmm?
Marowak,
Yes,
The
what
nature
about
school.
them?
Kate.
they are in Boxford now.
Yeah.
They moved out of the Lagula piece there.
Yeah.
They're
Oh,
over-
they did?
Yeah, they're over in Boxford now.
Okay, but she's in,
South is
Okay,
on the board.
Okay.
Yeah,
so they moved out of the place next to the dump.
yes,
Fort Rock.
yeah.
But isn't she a resident?
Kate and Rob, they're
Yeah.
Newburyport or Newbury? Still
She's
Newbury?
maybe Newburyport.
Or they might be New Hampshire. Yeah.
I don't know. It's
Right.
been- Since they moved off of our property, I haven't really had much
Yeah, but that's.
contact with them.
Well, I was just
noting.
wondering,
Yeah.
because there's an organization
Yeah.
that tapped into the whole elementary kind of level too,
Definitely.
right?
Yeah, after school.
Yeah, and she might be, or they might be, you know, say, oh yeah, there are people in Newbury who were very much involved in that.
Yeah.
And that actually is one of our, in a funny kind of way, I've discovered that only because it's relatively sort of easy for me to get to. And that's a little gem, that place, that really is.
The Fort Rock.
Yeah,
property.
yeah,
Get
it
re- get ready.
really is. And it's wonderfully tied into the history of the.
We're throwing some changes to that place. We are.
Are you?
Yeah, we're gonna do an all-access trail and a viewing platform out of that big wetland there.
Oh,
Good.
okay, and can you do something, it's limited about a loop in a way, because you have to go out and
I
back.
know, it's
It's
kinda
tough.
hard with the way it's like wedged when you
Yeah.
get down that end, so you have the
Yeah.
wetland, and then you're kinda
Right.
like pinched to the property
But it
line.
is, it's quite extraordinary.
It is a cool little
because
spot.
It ties into the very early history of this place.
Yeah,
And you can tie it together. Spencer Pierce Little See, because they couldn't build brick homes until they had lime to make mortar.
Right.
All you have to do is listen to my wife, who is an architectural historian and takes off on this sort of stuff and says, well, you know, this explains why this community had the kind of housing it had for the first X number of years. And there it is. You can walk and see right into the place that they
Yeah.
changed that. Yeah, yeah, it's fascinating. Anyway, sorry.
That's okay.
So,
About nature schools, that's a good point.
so,
Yeah, it's-
yeah, that was
I'm
great
just like.
conversation. No,
showing.
that's perfect, that's awesome. It'd be nice if we get these questions hammered out, by the next meeting, so we can get rolling with this.
Yep.
So, can we sign like homework, and people, can we do this through email?
Sure.
Yeah, and maybe just everybody, maybe add some more questions to it, whatever you think we're missing. And then we can maybe just do like a group email, and then if we give it a thumbs up, either we just approve it next meeting, or we just roll with it. I feel like it doesn't have to be that formal, you know?
No.
it's just-
Yeah. I mean, this looks good to me, honestly. I mean, yeah, if people want some time to think about it and give feedback, but if people are,
Did
just
we
as a
get
starting
this?
place.
Did you send this to all of us?
I sent it this
Bill
afternoon,
just sent it this afternoon,
Oh,
so
wow.
we're all just seeing it.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we can think about it a little bit
Yeah,
and get
okay.
some
Yeah,
feedback,
right, right.
yeah.
Yeah, I'll look back in a couple weeks, maybe, and be like, all right.
We might just need to like have like the funding question works for 95% of the
Right.
stuff listed on that table, but like,
Yeah, obviously
let's
not,
have the alternate version of that for like the ag
Library.
community,
Yeah.
or, you know, the library or something, you know what I
Yeah.
mean, like,
Yeah.
so like just to have like a couple of, you know, like two versions almost,
yeah,
if that's needed.
yep,
And I do think that, you know, 6 questions or something, like, we don't wanna
Yeah.
take too much of their time.
yeah.
I think that's smart.
Yeah. And if one doesn't
Great.
apply, just skip it, that's fine. And then once we get an answer, then we can put it back into a table, something like that. Or a document.
Great,
Okay.
thank you for pulling that together.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll forward this around to everybody, slightly modified version. And wanted to, let's see, showcase a little bit. I think the next thing on our agenda is just looking at how beautiful the webpage is. Ella, her last day in the office, which seems eons ago now, but she, and I shared this obviously, so you've all seen it, but just really cleaning up the drop downs over here. I don't know if people have clicked on it, but you know, simplified the text, reduced the words. I think those are some really good updates. We've got a resources page which needs to get expanded. It's a good start. We have a landing page for the plan. Currently, it just has what is the plan and then, you know, different components from the last approved plan. And then locations, I think, is where we're gonna talk about maps. And that's a good, oh, and then just before we go over to maps, did you all notice there's like a changing photo gallery up here? I have no idea how Ella figured out how to do that, but that was so cool. Yeah, so any other, I'll have to figure it out now, but the back end, I think we can upload. I should let you talk. Do you remember anything about how that works, Ella?
Yeah, I remember doing it, I'm not sure, I don't know if it'd be that hard, playing around with it, but I just thought like the photos would be a fun way to like, get people off track, but we're trying to get people like interested, or even if they're not part of the committee or like directly involved, even like having like a feature, like a chance to get your photo featured on the website as like a part of your, like, we're back kind of thing. Just, we're getting like people talking about it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
That's a cool idea, yeah.
it's planting the seeds for maybe some kind of, some social media-ish stuff
Yeah.
also, but maybe that's,
Yeah.
you know, the
Which
ways
is
up.
good, yeah.
maybe we should grab some,
Yeah, that was the one that couldn't.
I like that
We
one,
couldn't get that.
Yes.
yeah.
The orientation of that one.
maybe we should grab some photos of like some of the properties, you know, that cycle through there too, you know, whether it's the
Yeah.
refuge or, you know, Martin Burns or, you
Yeah,
know,
Yeah.
Old Town Hill, Greenbelt properties, whatever that are in that
This is
photo
Old
slide
Town Hill.
too, you know?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But even like, if it's like the signage, you know, like, go ahead, Al.
I would say all these photos are from Newbury. I like was very careful and choosing them, so most of them are in various of those places.
awesome,
Yeah, that's great.
that's Old Town Hill right there.
yeah.
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 Yeah, some of these are West Newbury.
So if you
and
put the-
they-
Do something like this.
Maybe the pointer.
What you're describing.
Oh,
Yeah.
it gives you the name, okay, that's awesome.
Oh, cool,
Oh, yeah,
okay.
it does,
I didn't
yeah.
realize that.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Oh, I didn't see that in
There we go,
Yeah.
Perfect.
cool. Yeah, it's awesome. I want it bigger, wonder if we could get it
Yeah.
bigger. That's so
there.
fun.
What happens if you click on the little, that gray icon at the top right?
Oh,
No? Okay,
Oh.
that's the whole thing.
huh,
So it goes to
Yeah.
the archives.
I don't know if this is something, I don't know what this is.
Other related kind of images. it seems
Yeah,
like.
it's just like choosing
Just like
itself,
browsing
I don't
stuff.
think these are the ones we have.
No.
This is like Truro and other weird stuff.
Oh,
okay.
okay. So you know,
Anyway, yeah, I was thinking maybe it would make it look a
Yeah.
bigger, yeah.
That one
So,
could
we'll
do
fix
with a
that.
little
Yeah.
TLC.
Yeah, definitely. And then it's, you know, the standard stuff is agendas and minutes, so. It's looking good. Thank you
Yeah,
again.
thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
we'll keep picking at it. If anybody sees things or wants to send photos, I'm happy to work on that. So, good segue to the map, Mike. I also- This one, yeah.
Sorry for the obnoxious draft watermark on the, on that one, but
Yes.
I had to, you know, you never know.
Yeah,
They tell two friends and they tell two friends and, you know, next thing you know, it's all over the place. So I wanted everybody to have a chance to look at, you know, what I had gotten done to this point and let me know what they don't like, what they think should be changed. Kristen has given me a version of the town seal to add in my legend bar down here. I haven't dropped that in yet, Kristen, for the resolution, but I can at least put it in there, and then if we get a higher res one, I
Yeah.
can swap them out.
yeah,
Some things that I thought of after like doing this, you know, I kind of left intentionally like the rivers and streams kind of flowing into town, or flowing through town. I kind of thought it was a little nicer, you know, visually than just the gray spaces of the surrounding areas. And then I started thinking, well, a lot of these, you know, open spaces in town, you know, spill across the border. Is that something, would we like to see, you know, where Martin Burns goes into, or, you know, Crane Pond Wildlife Management Area, you know, kind of its fuller boundary, or do we like that it's kind of nice and tight to the town?
I like the focus,
Yep,
the differentiation that, yeah, this is about the town, if they're, and not distracting with what else is there, although it is nice to know, like you're saying, so.
right,
I don't know
If you were to add, maybe just do it in a different color, like a
Right.
dotted line,
yeah, exactly.
just, you know,
outside of,
yeah, going out to the
Grayish,
west. or
right.
something.
okay,
If you wanted to.
Yeah.
But I think as is, I like the way you've done it here. This
Okay.
is really good. It's awesome.
Yeah,
and I didn't know about how to, besides in the legend, you know, I wanted it to tie directly to the website with as far as like how I ID'd everything on the map. And if we wanted to do that numerically, or if you guys think it would, I don't want to say look right, but, if it's better to just, label stuff on the map as, what it is, or if we leave it kind of clean and just with numbers, it kind of ties back into the webpage and, links on the webpage for more focused, if you say Greenbelt Properties number 2, and you go there, then you see the map that we've made, it's linked, onto the town website type of thing. I'm open for any suggestions for any of that stuff. I'm looking at this and I'm already like, I gotta change this, I gotta change that. I don't like that line weight, like.
It's difficult to not make it,
Yeah.
right, you don't wanna make it too busy,
Right.
right, but you wanna convey.
Well,
Yeah.
interestingly, why aren't the upper and lower greens on this?
That's a good point.
I know they're tiny, but they're,
Yeah,
I'm on a mission to try and kick the select board to putting them into permanent conservation.
Right, yeah.
I don't know why they all sort of go, oh, when you say that.
and I mean, so they're not protected
No,
under,
crazy.
no, under Article 96.
The town could sell them tomorrow.
Yeah, well, that's why they're not on here, because anything that wasn't directly in my data sets came from the Mass Open Space Land.
Yeah, right.
So, that's
But
where all my
it's
data
town
came from.
open property.
Yeah.
Even though it's not.
It's not protected, and the name of this map so far is public access properties, not,
Yeah, right.
so thank you for pointing that out, and if you see other things like that, please, let me know. I didn't think about that, totally
The
missed
other
that.
thing I picked up on Scotland Road is another piece of town property. What is that?
In the pink,
Yeah, the
that's
pink
Coffin's Island,
It's what?
Coffin's Island.
But I thought that was you guys.
Nope, no, town of Newbury owns the Newbury side, Newburyport owns the Newburyport side of it. We maintain it, but it's not
So
owned by
why-
Greenbelt.
Oh, okay, you've got a sign on it, which means simply you have a conservation restriction.
No, we don't have a conservation restriction on that property. We, once a year for the bike ride, put a lawn sign there that.
No, there's a sign on the gate.
There's a little, like, old town
Inside.
sign, that open space sign that Newburyport's actually currently redoing.
Inside the property.
Yeah.
Yeah, it talks about all the different partners that came together to protect it.
Yep.
I mean, that's one of my shameful episodes on the planning board, because, that was a boondoggle of the worst kind. And I thought that Greenbelt owned part of it, but no, you just simply have the conservation restriction.
We don't even hold a restriction on
You
it.
don't.
Nope.
Well, somebody put your sign on the gate.
I mean,
Yeah, well, I know.
I come out here,
No,
look
no,
across
no.
my driveway to the gate, and I'm trying to think of what sign you're talking about, like, I
Like the
literally,
regular-
35 times a day look at that gate.
Yeah,
I'm kinda
the one
curious
that's-
now.
Well, the one.
There's a
that's on-
parking sign.
The one that's on Colby,
Oh, yeah, we own that.
yeah, okay,
Miller
well,
Field.
it's the same sign, I'm pretty sure.
No, there's no long sign at Coffin's Island. I install them and I maintain them, so I know there's not a long sign on Coffin's Island. There's one at Wet Meadows, there's one at Hiller, there's one across the street from Hiller for,
So why do I know that Greenbelt is involved? Because there's some sign that says, we'll sort it
yeah,
out.
I'm curious now, I have to go home and look closely again.
Sorry, but I just saw it, and
But yeah,
that's what I
so
thought it
we
was.
just do the trail maintenance there to keep it open, just cause, I mean, there's nobody else to do it, so.
Well, the town, of course, never mind.
So are these only open space properties with public access? Is that what we've got on this map?
That-
Or is it all?
That's correct, since,
Okay.
and, you bring that up, and, the sunflower field, Hiller Field is not on this map. So, you know, that's something I can add in, like in just maybe a different, like a light gray shading, like other just open space in town. I mean, I do that and it's gonna fill a lot of this out, like a lot of the marsh is gonna, you know, be covered by that. I mean, we own a ton, that I'm not showing here, because these were more the places you could go to and actually go for a walk, you know, recreate somehow, you know. I'm not saying you can't with the marsh, but,
Yeah.
different.
I think this is good to keep it separate.
Yeah,
I'm really
right.
curious, I wanna see that map, but
Sure,
separate. That was,
sure.
I mean, not that I'm tasking you or anything, but I'm just curious, like, what other open spaces out there,
Yeah,
that we don't have access to?
right.
People that just own, you know, 200 acres or something. That's really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and I mean, technically everything Greenbelt owns is open to the public. You know, like anybody can go there. We have to have it that way. But, you know, we may not promote something. Like, I don't want to promote necessarily people traipsing around Graff Marsh, but you can do that. You can go there. You have every right to go there, but, you
Yeah,
know,
Yeah.
I wouldn't say, hey, Jim, you want to go for a walk today? Like, that's the place you should go to. There's better options, you know, for people of all abilities too. You know, I was trying to think about that as
Right.
well.
Right,
Anybody can go to any of these places.
yeah.
so the municipal, there's, what are those? That's Great Meadow and,
So that's Great Meadow and,
Manager Fields?
yes, Yanter Fields, and then the beach on the other side, on the east side.
Okay. Cause there's, I mean, there's hunting allowed on all the municipal salt marsh off of 1A. Right? Like, I
Yep.
don't know how it's
But-
that, like, public access, you know?
But that's why, like, I had that question too, because I mean, you know,
Yeah, more land-based versus marsh, I guess, like with trails or, anyway, I just think we probably just need to clearly articulate it, because otherwise everyone will do what we're doing right now, like, why isn't this one on?
Right, right,
You know, and
right.
at first, if we just need to say, but anyway, it's a good reminder, I think the title is obviously accurate.
and I'm open to ideas on the title too. I just kind of plucked that there.
Yeah,
Yeah, because you have to look at the fact that the property which is, okay, on South Street, is that South Street? The continuation of Scotland Road is South Street, right?
Yep,
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah, that,
It's not.
that's West Newbury. The,
well,
You're talking about the
yeah,
Greenbelt
but
piece?
On the west
the
side,
piece
yeah.
that's in Newbury, okay, which is in 61B, yes.
That's ours?
Well, no, there's Yasser or somebody,
That's a conservation restriction though. It doesn't, like, it's up to the landowner if they want public access there on that particular one.
yeah, but there, if you put it into 61B, there has to be, and it's in 61B.
Okay, well,
No, I'm not faulting your map, I'm just saying that there are a number
no,
of,
I mean,
yeah,
yeah. I don't know if he still has it in B because he put the restriction on it, so,
yeah,
you know, I mean,
right.
it's as good as B tax-wise and just a
Well,
little bit worse than A.
that,
So,
yeah,
I
I
mean-
would say that's,
I just know from the restriction standpoint, there's no guaranteed public access.
No.
I don't know,
No.
like, if they put it in chapter or not, that's not, you know,
right.
anything I'm technically involved in, you know?
Since, maybe I'm jumping ahead to the next item on the agenda, but 61A and B are issues which I think are gonna kind of drop onto the table, because, once again, the town has been very dilatory about actually inspecting or finding out what the real status of properties that are supposedly for tax purposes in either of those. I think the 61A has always been a little tidier, but the 61B, of which there are a handful, is, you know, boy.
Yeah, I mean, my understanding too was that you just couldn't post it. Like if you had 61B, you couldn't post no trespassing.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like, that was always
Right.
my understanding with it.
but at the
But
same,
how the public,
how they know, right,
right, I mean, that, it
yeah,
can go a lot of different ways, right? I mean, it could be, letting somebody graze animals on it. It could be, a hunter can legally cross that parcel and,
yeah.
you know,
You are missing also the infamous parcel right across the street from me,
from you. Yes, right.
okay, which is the one that ties to the ball field and the library, which we bought for $250,000 several years ago.
But that doesn't have public access trail on
It's
it.
town property,
I know,
I
but
know,
there's
but like-
a lot of other town
Right,
property.
There's a lot of stuff that's not on
Yeah.
here, that's protected and, protected open space or just
well,
open
no,
space that has
but-
public access.
Wait. Interestingly, are you saying, well, that raises the issue about what is public access?
Let me, before we go down that road, the
No.
way I looked at this map was if you were visiting Newbury from somewhere else and you
Yeah.
wanted to go take a hike, this is the map that
okay.
you would look at.
That's the-
That's the way I looked at this map.
Yes.
And that's why I said too, like, if it's a second map or if it's something on here shaded differently that just showed open space in general, I can turn to the 61 layers on, I can show everything, but I looked at this like if you were coming here and you wanted to know, a place to go, this would
Yeah.
give you the big players in town that you would want to go
Right.
to, type of thing. It's kind of how I
Oh,
approached it.
that's, okay, so I,
Because I was thinking about the
Yeah.
website, I was thinking about like if somebody's coming to town and there's an open space, department there, like, let's see what they've got for places to go check out. Like I got my family with me or, whatever, I got my mountain bike or whatever,
so you'd
These are the
have to
places I
have
can
your,
go.
you'd have to have your kayak to get to the other part of, the pasture. The one off, okay, the one off Orchard Street,
Right,
you can't get to the part that's south of the river except from the river,
right.
right?
Well, from a map maker's perspective,
Yeah. Right,
it would take me
Yeah.
5 times as long I would literally have to hand trace, what
Right.
no,
was
I know.
like directly accessed without an impediment type of thing,
So to that kind of, just with that lens of like, if you're coming to Newbury and you wanna go on an open space property and take a hike, I would argue maybe naming
Right.
that,
on the map itself.
yeah, because then you're like, oh, this isn't just showing me everywhere that Greenbelt has property, because it's not,
Right,
right?
right.
Or everywhere the town has property, it's not. It's like, these are specific places for you to take a hike.
And with that,
Whatever.
does the title not make sense as it stands as public access properties? Because I can see exactly why you would say, have the comments that you had.
Yeah.
Oh, public access, well, there's a lot not showing that has public access technically,
Yeah.
right.
Could you just say like, I don't know.
I know.
Like open space and trails, something that talks about what you. like,
Yeah.
Or just,
Well, yeah.
Trails
all of-
and-
Yeah, do all of these have trails of some sort?
And related, do they all have some kind of parking or whether even if it's just a dirt patch?
Right. I mean, I can't speak for every single,
Right.
spot on there,
kind of seems like it to me. I mean, maybe we need to think about identifying it more too.
Yeah.
Like the
Like
star
adding-
is like on the access point or
like
whatever.
adding an access
Yeah.
locate, like type of
Yeah.
thing, a P or a star or
And we
something
could
like
always,
that.
like, on the site, well, yeah, we could just say the suggested access point if there are other
Right.
ways to, I don't know, something that.
Well, that's why too, like, I was trying to think about how this map got tied back to, like, links on the webpage,
Exactly.
right?
Right.
Because if you're gonna, like, we're not gonna reinvent,
Right.
the Martin Burns map, for example, so whatever the state has, you know, for a map of that area is what's, you know, gonna be on the website. And this is just more of the general overview.
Right.
You know,
I was
The
thinking-
entry point.
Yeah, I was thinking we should mark the access points, but then I figure it's gonna get too busy.
It
If
does,
someone
yeah.
really gets interested in going to Martin Burns, then they can just scroll Martin Burns and figure out.
right,
Yeah, this is just kind of a more general.
Still orient
overview.
you around
Yeah.
everything.
yeah,
I mean, some kind of, I mean, the numbers, adding them
yeah.
on to map to what's on the website list. I
Should
mean, the
be-
name itself, if it doesn't get too busy, I think it's a way for people to just,
Yeah.
you know.
And I didn't wanna, like,
I don't know.
You know, like, just, you know, because, you know, there's, you know, 4 or 5 Greenbelt properties, there's,
Right.
you know, 2 or 3 different state properties. I didn't want the color scheme to all of a sudden get super busy to be able to identify it in the legend. That's why I kinda just kept it blanketed as like the organization or the entity's name. Like, this is, you know, US Fish and Wildlife, this is, you know, Historic New England, this is, you know,
Should you though suggest on this just simply that for more detailed information, check the websites of these
Yep.
organizations?
yep, that can be a note right on there.
You know, because sometimes people don't do the obvious.
Well, again, I was hoping we'd have those links, right? Like,
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Right.
sure.
because I wasn't just thinking about like an outside visitor, I was also thinking
Right.
like somebody moves to town,
Sure.
you know, and they're learning about the town and like, oh, look at all these places we can go to recreate, you know?
Yeah.
But I just thought like links would be kind of the easy thing instead of like reinventing
But I
the
also,
wheel.
you know, love to see something like this in the town clerk's office, so
Sure.
someone can physically
Yeah.
take it home when
Yeah.
they see it and they come to pay their taxes or get a
Sure.
parking sticker permission or something.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of people who don't tend to do too well online with detailed stuff, you know?
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, you're gonna have it be a trifold of some kind with
Yep.
more text on the back, I'm sure. I mean, that's been done previously.
the one thing that strikes me about this is, wow, I mean, nearly 50%.
And again,
No.
that's not even showing.
No,
like-
it isn't,
right,
is
marsh.
it? Once,
Yeah.
if you played in the others, it would be,
I know.
or just a quick aside. And I know that they still do. MVPC used to say, quote, our population per square mile or whatever it was, okay, by dividing it by the total per acre or something, yeah, per acre or something, by the population, okay? In other words, we have 23,000 acres, you divide that by 7,000, you know, whatever it is, and you get this sort of wonderful number that we have 2.3 people per acre. That's crazy,
Right.
because half of the town is totally inaccessible for living on in the sense of, and every time I raised this, they said, well, no, the problem is there's the state standard. And I thought, yeah, right, state standard, which essentially creates, you know, a very, very deceptive view, because for some people, that tells you a whole lot about what you can do in the town, and to other people, it's a big plus,
Sure.
which is, you know, real kind of thing.
Totally.
Yeah, and this map really tells the story, so thank you, Mike. It's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
nice work.
Thank you.
It's 8:30. How are people feeling?
Well, you want some fun? Want to look at my photos? No,
I feel like we should probably lean towards wrapping up. And I'm a little worried both chapter 61A and the, Plum Island discussion.
well, yeah, only
David,
because
might
it's.
take a little
it's-
longer.
So you think, well, sorry.
Well, I'm just wondering how much more time people have, because both those discussions could take a few minutes.
I'm here.
Were we, the 61A, remind me what?
Okay, so we'll just like a few minutes on
Yeah.
each topic,
Yeah, sure.
but let's be like,
Time box.
let's not
Yeah.
would be my preference. So chapter 61A, it sounds as though everyone has an understanding of how that works. But it came up recently, David and I attended a select board meeting because there's a property on Central Street that has currently been in chapter 61A that is being sold. It's the property that sells the eggs, where the chickens often run into the road across from
Pearson's.
the plaza,
Yes.
Pearson Plaza.
Geese, actually.
Geese,
Geese.
Oh, yeah. I
It's
don't
stubborn.
even know if they're chickens. So, you know, it sounds like we know, but the way it works is when a property changes use or changes hands and the use changes, that it needs to be withdrawn and the town has a right of first refusal. So one of the ways that open space plans and programs often work is to look at properties that are in that chapter, real estate category, and think about because it's a temporary status. It's open space, but it's temporary from year to year to stay enrolled in that open space use. So are there opportunities to look at more permanently protecting properties? That's one thing that I think is relevant to open space planning. And the other is when a property does change hands to be developed or the use changes, the town has this opportunity to really do a good job looking at it and either exercise its right of first refusal or convey that right of first refusal to another entity like the land trust, a partner. In this case, the parcel that's changing hands was just included in the overlay district that was approved at town meeting for multifamily housing. So I think that alone says something about what the town thinks is an appropriate use for that parcel. But the discussion at the select board meeting, the public hearing opened at the last meeting and was continued to the meeting, which is next Tuesday night.
Right, yeah.
So the select board, many towns actually have a chapter 61 policy that is adopted by the town to lay out what the review process is. And Newbury doesn't have a formal policy around that, but that's, again, something I just sort of wanted to flag for us as a committee to think about whether we would want to consider, recommending that the town have a policy around how that right of first refusal review process goes. There's lots of guidance on that, and David, I think, did a great job at the last select board meeting, sharing his, description of how the select board can reach out to other committees to get input. The planning board did give input to the select board. The Conservation Commission, I believe, might have had it on their agenda tonight, but didn't have it at the last meeting.
Right.
And the Open Space Committee, which hasn't really existed again until recently, I don't think the select board specifically reached out to the Open Space Committee, but obviously that's a role that would be appropriate for the Open Space Committee in future such projects. So that's kind of just what I wanted to raise and share, and just thank David for attending the select board meeting and giving the board some guidance. There are properties in 61A, 61, 61B. I'm not sure how recently anyone's kind of really done a thorough look at them and done some outreach. I know Greenbelt does that kind of outreach regularly, but just sort of thinking about if there are parcels that have a high priority for a more permanent protection, is that a role that we can sort of play as a committee?
Is there a list where we can go look up properties?
Yeah, I have a list from the assessor's office. It's also, it is digitized on the assessor's parcel data on the MyMap you can click on the open space, which has chapter data. It's not completely accurate, the digital data, but it's pretty accurate. But I have an
Codes.
updated list as well.
Yeah, and the codes are sometimes hard to decipher.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, so get the list from the assessor is easier to follow.
Yeah. Well, there's actually a graphic though, like
Oh.
there's like a layer
Oh.
that shows like hash marks
Yeah.
for chapter properties.
Gotcha.
But it's not totally accurate, so.
Yeah, oh, that's right, because the open space layers has it too, and it's not 100%.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah,
'Cause I looked at that when I was thinking about this months ago.
as another,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah. So you can go to the actual tax card for each property, and that's where they're like different codes that the assessors use, like all the
yeah.
61A is all 700s or something.
Yeah.
I forget,
That's not
but-
on Mass GIS, is it?
Well, it is. There is 61 data on Mass GIS, but it may not be
That's up to date.
up to date.
Gotcha.
Because I just I kind of compared between what I got from the assessor and the data layer.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm just gonna stop right now and decide what we want to do, like, because I could have just went down the rabbit hole,
Yeah.
right? You know, it's like how to make it show up on a map. I was like, all right,
Yeah.
I'm still waiting for.
It also annually, there's an annual enrollment, so
Yeah.
it's almost gonna get outdated as soon as you,
And they're
potentially, but,
very weird too, in that they have a coding for what the person is doing under 61A. And if you,
Well, that's what threw me off. The
Right,
different
well-
codes is where I started. And then when I got the list,
Yeah.
it was easier to understand,
Right.
what was what.
because if you take a parcel, and there's one that I sort of keep an eye on, because I'm interested in what they've cooked up this year, is that it changes, and people at one point, there was a parcel that they were growing trees, obviously Christmas trees, and then the next year they were into vegetables. Well, you know, I mean, that's highly unlikely on anybody's say-so, in that if you're gonna do that, you're gonna have to take down and take out all of the Christmas trees, okay, and prep the land for vegetables in X number. No way, there's no way you can do that agriculturally speaking. And no one ever says, I can understand why, but nobody ever says, wait a minute, you were haying this year, and last year you were running, and, you know, I mean,
yeah.
it's just whatever numbers pick out of the sky most of the time. And so the net result is that information really only tells you that it is according to the assessors in 61A, as opposed to anything else. It really doesn't tell you what's going on in reality.
Yeah, yeah.
For some pieces of land that have stayed the same way for years, yes, it does. But when we were doing this the last time, when Dan and I started doing this, it was, I mean, we had a session one morning where we doubled over with laughter based on, you know, what people were saying. And it's only because probably they have a form that comes in, I think, annually that you must complete.
Yeah,
And you probably, you know, stick the same number in, not even knowing what the number means. The 107 is totally different from 104 in
Yeah.
terms of whatever it says. So I found that information, and I'm glad you didn't get tangled up in it, because it really doesn't tell you anything that's very reliable.
Yeah, and I mean, I just came to the realization that all I cared about was if it was in the 61 program or not.
Or not.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, right, exactly.
anything else didn't
Right.
matter from our perspective of, you know, what could
Well-
become available, right of first refusal or an assignment, or, you know,
It-
I don't care if you're growing crops or if you're
Yeah.
raising cattle or if you're,
But there
you
are
know,
a
cutting hay,
couple,
it's just, you
there
know.
are a couple of properties where looking at that, I think benefits. And one is a property that abuts a property that Greenbelt has recently acquired, namely the development of Coleman Road.
Yeah,
Okay.
Philstone Way.
and it abuts a property which is in 61,
Correct.
okay? And that property is probably one of the most interesting ones in town as to what happens there, because it's I think the biggest open one with open land around, without going into names to have people's knees knocking. Yeah.
So, that was that. Again, just, I would sort of put it in a category of someone, as we go forward, is interested in a little project. It could be like a sort of small research project to look at policies that other towns have, think about how they, would work in Newbury, and then bring it back to the committee and talk about how to sort of advocate and move that forward potentially.
Do you know, like, does Ipswich have a policy?
Yeah.
Like, just so we're not like
Yeah.
shooting blind.
Yeah, West Newbury has one.
They have one as well, okay.
Yeah, there are a few in the area,
Thank
and
you.
definitely around the state, there's several more. And then we had, sort of other items I anticipated, and David did some research into, on the topic of public access, looking
Right.
specifically at the beach and Plum Island,
Mhm.
so,
You wanna plug this into your machine?
sure.
That's how it all comes crashing down, isn't it?
I know, let's see. Which one? I don't know if that's one.
Does it have one, or does it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Here we go.
Okay, why don't you start with what says Temple Boulevard?
Oh, these are photos, nice.
Yeah. Okay, so, the fun thing about this is I started out and it was a nice day, okay, and what I was, first of all, what happened was I called, to the Peter, the father of, the Plum Island Taxpayers Association, right?
Right.
And had an interesting conversation with him, which I probably won't relay, except to say that Peter has done over a series of years some very hard work in trying to identify both existing and also legal, in the sense of public rights of way to the beach, which are legally recorded somewhere but may not actually physically exist, okay? So armed with that knowledge that they had done this, that they had provided this information to the town, and that there is a whole story as to what happened and what eventuated is what we see, and that is Temple Boulevard, which ironically, it's really, this is where it starts. Temple Boulevard is not a through street. You can't drive through Temple Boulevard and come out the other end. It stops. However, it legally does in fact go out, in terms of planning, okay, to the beach. Yeah. And it's the one essentially which is the boundary, along the boundary between the refuge and Plum Island residential area. And what it has on it is the Moby mat, which is that blue thing, okay? And that is relatively recent, because when I was there in the spring, you couldn't, at the end that you see at the skyline level, there was a 6 to 8 foot dead drop to the beach, a tangle of rocks where you could kill yourself, Right now, it's open, okay. So, next slide, yes, great. So Harvard also has a Moby mat, and at the same time, it has the signage which you see, all of which is in pretty lousy shape, frankly. They all have no parking signs, but exactly what the other signs say is not always easy to find out. So then the next one would be, the next named one, yeah, Dartmouth. No, there may be a okay, between Temple Boulevard and Dartmouth, the heavens opened. Okay, I mean, literally started raining like crazy, okay? So getting out was really not an option, so I'm shooting through the window of the truck. And I don't know, there may be a Moby mat out of sight.
Yeah.
I haven't been back to check, and my guess is perhaps there is, but I don't know that for certain. Okay, whoops, can we go to actually the 16th, I think it is? Oh, okay, let's hold it, this, interestingly, if you zero on the sign, you see it says emergency access number 13.
Yeah.
I only found 7. And what I'm wondering is, are the other 6 in Newburyport perhaps?
Oh,
Okay, or there are the 6 simply,
were the 7
No.
you found sequential, or were they all like random numbers?
oh, no, I have no idea, but that's the new sign, and this particular one is an emergency access, big E, meaning I think the fire department, the police department have an interest in this working, and so that may be their sign. Okay, but could we find 16th Street there somewhere? There, okay. So as you're driving along, and it's now pouring with rain, this is what you come to. Right, yeah, pull it up even further, can you? Right, so here you go. The pedestrian sign is for the pedestrian walk on the street, which of course was not barely visible because they haven't painted it. And then there's some interesting things, and every one of these has the red sign which says emergency access do not block, and then there's a lovely sign which says don't pet the seals. Okay, there's a 16.2, because let's actually look at what the access looks like. So if you go back and go to 16.2,
I was looking at no dogs, no alcohol.
Right.
right, there, no, okay. There you go. That's actually what you see now. And now is a sign that says no lifeguards on duty, and no fires, alcohol, no,
Or dogs.
yeah, no dogs on the beach, okay? Alcohol, all dogs. I thought it was an interesting sort of choice. It's alcohol or dogs, right?
Right.
Can't be both, right?
I like to
Anyway,
my dog
so-
a beer personally.
So having said no parking, everything is no. Everything is negative.
Oh, yeah, right.
Right.
Not like public access
Yeah,
here.
public
Yeah.
access here, but you can't, right, okay. So next one would be 30, there, okay, there you go. I mean, once again, yeah, and when you go up and look at that sign, it's the same one,
yeah.
no fires,
Yeah.
right? And it's really, it's, you know, really inviting, right? Because you will find very often, and in this case, actually, they took it away and they don't quite understand why. There was a private parking sign right at the point of access to this, which is kind of pretty screwy. Okay, next one will be yeah, okay, no fires. Now, the other thing is, what's that? What's the yellow? I have no idea.
Almost like, I have no idea.
It's, well, it should be caution,
Yeah.
right? I mean, on the, you know, the general sort of thing, and I don't know, well, I wasn't about to go find out, frankly.
Yeah.
45th Street, same sort of problem, you know, what actually happens when you get there, right?
Yeah.
And also, what's the parking issue? Is there any not? 51st Street, is has the same sort of problem in that, it's a street. And so you don't know, frankly, it's long enough, you don't know the emergency access, meaning access to the beach is quite not too bad, but it's a long way away. And I could only figure, after looking at all this stuff, two things. One is that there is somehow this expectation that if you're on Plum Island, either you live there and you know all about this stuff, and so the signs you don't rely on the signs. If you rent, you either go there often enough that you become a semi sort of resident, so you know where to go, or all bets are off, you're all by yourselves. And what puzzles me about this is none of this stuff is inviting, right? If you think about it, I mean, even though I know it was a rainy day, but all of this stuff talks about emergency access. It doesn't talk about public access. It doesn't talk about foot access. It doesn't say pedestrians only, or it's all negative. And this is in a place where we consider this to be, you know, an economic engine for this town.
Right.
This is a town that when I was involved in the master plan, they were talking about developing tourism, right?
Yeah.
And okay, if we think about the fact that, and I have nothing to tell me that this is true, but there is a well-founded belief that nearly $250,000 came in to work on various aspects of public issues on the island, including the one thing that has happened, which is public toilets, okay? And somehow it just hasn't gotten past what you see in terms of working on this, because there was an earlier grant of $50,000, which in fact was used to develop the information about where these public access points were and to do the research and all the rest of it. But it wasn't, I'll be very honest about this, it wasn't until the other night when I realized I should get this together and label these, that I saw that sign and I thought, number 13?
Right.
So what happens the other 6?
Yeah.
I don't know, I suppose I should call the police department or the fire department and find out.
It would make sense if they're, you know, Newburyport through Newbury's, you know, ownership, you know what I mean?
Well, but the interesting thing is, I drove, obviously, in order to turn around, and I mean, I do all the time anyway, but I drove into Newburyport. Newburyport doesn't identify any, as far as I can see. So whether the, you know, and I couldn't get back to Barrett to find out whether the PETA people had identified, since they're an island-wide organization and not limited to Newbury, I didn't know whether they had identified places in Newburyport, logically they should have, which had legal access to the beach. And so is that, are those the other 6? I don't know, maybe that's the answer.
Yeah.
But to have that one labeled number 13, when none of the
Yeah.
others have a number
It's
of
interesting.
them, right?
Yeah.
So I wish I could, yeah, it's pretty weird. Oh,
There's not that many places you could fit a fire truck or an ambulance, or, you know what I mean?
well, I know.
Think
now,
of
the one
13
that-
spots that you can
The
get
one I
emergency
did
people
miss
into,
out,
you know?
and so, okay, I found, well, I say 7, so 8, so then we're looking for 5, because the main, the one with the parking lot
Oh, yeah.
counts
As long
as an
yeah.
access.
Yeah.
I didn't take a picture of that, because that's pretty obvious.
So,
Yeah. Anyway, it was an interesting
Yeah.
wet morning. And when I started, you know, to look at it, I realized that what has happened there in terms of initiative has all been on the basis of what if somebody's injured, drowning, all of which is good, but at the same time, what about the rest of it? Yeah, see, there's the Harvard Way thing that,
Yeah.
yeah,
There's a future map for
yeah.
public access
Yeah.
points, parking
Right.
spots.
I don't want to do that map. Somebody else can make that
You
one.
know, one of the things that this raises is that there is really no, as far as I'm aware anyway, no active consideration of what does the town in fact do about public parking or parking of any kind of the non-resident or renting public on Plum Island.
Yeah, no. It's the center lot and it's,
Yeah,
you know, the driveways for renters, that's it.
Yeah. Well, what it eventuates is that there are what? There's two active parking lots where you pay. One isn't active anymore, the one on the south side of the boulevard. But, you know,
Yeah.
Yeah,
it just raises the question that, okay, so how do you get there? On foot, on a bike? Can you only get there and walk on the beach by having places you know you can park or friends or something? And I think the refuge people would tell you that for years they've been dealing with that problem. That people essentially come into the refuge looking for a place to park to get to the beach and take their dog, and then they find out they can't take the dog,
right.
right?
Look at this one that just like stops right here, this 9th Street,
Yeah,
the way out of the right of way just stops here, and then this is private. It's kind of weird. Just really quickly, and I do need
Yeah.
to get home, but,
Sure.
the parcel, just FYI, the zoning board has a project on it at its next meeting, which is Thursday, which is this parcel right here,
on the corner.
which has where the ice cream shop is, you guys know?
Yep.
It's a proposal to convert it to all residential.
Yeah.
All residential, yeah.
Yeah, it's currently commercial on the bottom, residential on the top, but there's a proposal for 2 very large homes.
Okay.
Can we approve the minutes
Yep.
from July?
Motion to approve the minutes.
I know. One more thing up.
Ella, we so appreciate that
Yeah.
you've been there.
See you later.
You heading out.
Bye, thank you.
Let's talk soon.
Right.
Thank you, Joan, tell her thank you. Okay, Bill made a motion to approve the July 16th minutes.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. I will post them. David, thank you for doing that research, because it's
Yeah.
interesting and helpful to look at photographs
Well,
and
you
part
know,
of the discussion.
it sort of played into my hunch that it was pretty spotty. I would try and solve the 13 issue, but I only discovered it a couple of days ago. Yeah.
So we've talked about regular meetings on the 3rd Tuesday,
Yeah.
which would be the 15th,
Okay.
which is that Indigenous Peoples' Day holiday, the 14th? So I don't know if that matters to anyone.
I'm pretty sure Christina said that the following Tuesday, right now it's
The
clear
day
for her.
after Columbus Day, yes, 15 October.
The 14th is the Monday, and yeah, the 15th,
Well, it's Indigenous Peoples' Day, forget about Columbus.
yeah. So 15th is not good, but the following one is that what you're saying, Bill?
Yep, Yep, that's what she said, so,
First or something.
It would be the
Second,
22.
22nd.
and if there's a room available.
So I actually cannot, I'm out of the country on the 22nd.
Cool.
But
Then,
you guys can meet now. That you have a chair, if you would like.
What does
Either way.
what does that do with us for like credentials, getting in here? You know,
Yeah.
yeah, so I mean, if that's too soon to figure that out, then, you know,
Why don't I look into that and then I'll poll everybody and we'll
Yeah.
pick
Okay.
the date that the most people can do it. So either the 15th or the 22nd.
we can handle it, but, I mean, it's nice having you here. So
Yeah.
if the 15th is better for everybody else, then that's okay too.
Okay.
The 22nd probably won't work for me either, but,
Okay. All right, well then,
um,
get back to the 15th. And I don't know if, maybe we could set up a remote option in the future
Yeah.
too, because
Yeah.
there's lots of times Christina could call in, but she can't be here.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
yeah, I would love to have like a better hybrid system, but, we'll work on that.
Yeah, I mean, actually, we have Zoom
I mean, calling in,
and laptop, Zoom, end of the table.
yeah, I think I think if it were Zoom, it would have to be posted as a Zoom and then
Oh,
anybody could log in for the public access component of it.
Okay.
So, but we might be able to just do that. It's sort of an issue with the recording and
Oh, yeah,
who's on
Sure.
the
Yes,
camera.
yes.
But anyway, it shouldn't be that hard and let's work on it because I think hybrid can be really useful, so.
Okay.
Okay, motion to adjourn?
seconded.
Mike, I'm gonna have you
Right,
make it.
yes.
And, Bill, second.
We all agree.
Okay, at 9:06.